morning. I'm Savannah Walling from the Downtown East Side part of the City Festival and Vancouver Moving Theatre, who's producing the festival with a whole lot of community partners. And I'm really delighted to welcome John Atkins and Bob Soong, our intrepid leaders, on today's walk strolling through the heart of the Downtown East Side. And they're two of my personally favorite storytellers as well. Louise Harris is going to be circulating through. She has some program guides if you don't have them, and she'll also be collecting some contributions. I think they're $10 if you're out of the neighborhood, and by donation if you're from the neighborhood, but we don't want anybody to be excluded, so what you can manage would be great. And there's some really exciting productions later today that will help. I hope you'll take a look into at the Interurban, some artists at the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Garden with Kalumpa Bob at the Barrio Flamenco. Very exciting dancing. But right now I will pass it on to our intrepid leaders.
Oh, well, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a great sunny day in Vancouver. We'll have a great time. As you said, as Savannah saying, we are the tour leaders for today. John will be taking the lead first, and I'll be taking the second after John. But before we do that, I have a scheduled dim sum lunch at 12 o'clock, and it's $15 a head. Can I have a sign of hands who would like to attend the dim sum? Anyone? Nobody wants dim sum. Oh, okay. Well, okay, that's good. So,
all right. So good morning. What we're doing this morning is redoing a walk that Bob and I created for Citizenship and Immigration this year, celebrating Immigration Week. And what they wanted to do is talk about immigrant communities in Vancouver, but also the idea of immigration and city creation. And so when the idea showed up, it's kind of like, well, what better place to start than right here at this corner, because we're right on sort of the edge of the initial settlement for non-native settlement in this area. So the community of Gastown is just over that way, but of course we're standing right in front of where the Hastings Sawmill started in 1865. But more importantly, the Hastings Sawmill initially going to be established in Stanley Park. And that's why Brockton Point is nice and cleared, and the cricket pitches and the rugby grounds are all there, because they cut all the trees and the mill was going to be there. Tied too strong in the first narrows, the lumber schooners couldn't tie at the dock safely, and so the mill moved. Where did the mill move? To a summer food gathering area at the foot of Dunlevy Street, used by local First Nations. And so because that was a cleared area, they kind of booted folks out and took it over. And so the settlement then of the first non-native settlement in this area on the south shore of the creek takes place right here in the area. The mill grows very quickly, and it then brings a huge, diverse crew of people into this area to work. So right at the beginning, even before the first lumber was shipped in 1867, you had African Americans, mostly freed slaves, but others that came up through here to escape persecution. So you had African Americans here, you had Chinese, you had Chileans who'd come up the coast on some of the early lumber schooners. Native Hawaiians were here. They worked with Hudson's Bay Company. You'll find Native Hawaiians throughout British Columbia. Then, of course, you had the Swedes and the English and the Irish and the Welsh, and pretty much, you name it, you could find them here. But importantly also, the mill, later on as it started to grow, the mill management really liked working with Japanese men. And so they actually had a labor contractor in Japan recruiting Japanese men to come to work here. And so we're standing right on the edge of the Japanese district here. So of course the Japanese language school just across the road, established in 1928. But as soon as sort of the folks that were here, mayors and police chiefs and city councilors and the early elite of the city, as they started to move a little bit westward, partly because of the growth of industry along here, and they really didn't want to wake up in the morning, have smoke and all that kind of nonsense in the house, they started moving to the expanding West End. The reason for that was the water line came through in 1889, opened up the West End for settlement. And this area was very quickly becoming industrialized. Now, it wasn't just that they wanted to move west to newer houses, but they were leaving because City Council in 1893 gave permission to the Great Northern Railway to run train tracks on Alexander, on Powell, on Railway, over to Hawkes and Campbell, and this area here, just up against Gore and Main Street, was going to be the new Great Northern Railway station and freight yard. And so if you're living down here in a fairly nice house and this is going to be the new freight and train station, you're out of here. And so the West End's opening up and boom, off you go. Now that didn't materialize, but that strong divide right down Alexander Street. Industry, residential. And so that was set all the way back in the early 1880s when the Canadian Pacific Railway actually set Railway Avenue aside as their new warehouse district. And then basically through ownership and other things, this whole area never developed until the early 1900s on this side of Alexander. So we have a really interesting collection of warehouses and things like that, and then residential on this side. And so the evolution of the area has really been formed by its proximity to the port, but also those early immigrants that came into the mill. So what we're going to do is just walk partway down to the driveway there, stop, look at this row of buildings, and then cut through and come around the block.